Today on Stupid Fast RC, I'm going to show you how to paint your body. No, not like that. It's not Tattoo Nightmares. This is an RC car body, yeah? Today on Stupid Fast RC, I'm going to go through a couple of quick tips on painting your bodies. Okay, so I've got a couple of bodies here. Here's one I've started to paint before. This is quite a small body, and this is an extremely large body, of course. Now, there's a couple of ways you can paint. Obviously you can get your spray paint, and that means that you don't need any tools other than your spray paint, which is easy. Or you can get yourself one of these. This is a little air gun. It runs off a compressor. If you've got a compressor already, that's kind of handy because you can just get something that actually reduces the pressure coming out of there. You need about 15 to 20 pounds, and then you can hook that into a can of paint and go from there. This is by far, in the long run, the cheapest way to go, even though it costs more for the actual piece of equipment, but you can use it again and again, and the paint is a lot cheaper this way. The other thing that I use is a hot gun. Now, you could use a hairdryer. You have to be careful with a gun like this because it gets much hotter, but a hairdryer is the way to go. And I use that in between coats. So I'll put a coat of paint on, and then I'll dry it off, touch dry. By touch dry I mean you'll see the colour difference. We're not actually going to touch it because it's not actually dry. And then that allows you to put layer and layer. And I'd say that's probably my single best tip, and it doesn't really matter whether it's summer or winter or how cold it is there, but the best way to do it is to warm the body up a little bit before you start, and then put a layer of paint on, and then dry it off with this. Now, the one thing I will say is that you can put on, one thing you don't want is runs, where you've put on too much paint and it's run. Your only option there is to really wipe it off and start again, or if you're going to just ignore it, then go in over the top. It's a lot easier to get a run with a can of paint like this because you're delivering a lot more paint to the surface than it is with an air gun. An air gun gives you a much thinner, nicer finish, and you can see there that's had about 2 coats on already, and there's not a run in sight. That is actually quite a nice layer of paint on there, and that went on probably about 10 minutes ago. But we want to keep going and put the paint. Now, a couple of things. If you've never ever done this before, the paint goes on the inside of the body. If people have done this, then it's going to be obvious, but it goes on the inside, and then there's a thin layer of plastic that you peel off. It's a bit like Glad wrap on the outside, and gives you your finish. You'll also, hopefully, depending on the kind of kit that you've got, there's lots of different kinds of kits. This kit here is a proper Traxxas kit, and it's come with some masking plates for the windows, and I've already put those on because we want to be able to see. I mean, if you want to paint over the windows, that's fine, but these are going to have see-through windows at the end. And this kit has also come with some nice stickers that I'll put on at the end, and you can just pick from those, you know, obvious what you're going to do with those. The other kit that I've got wasn't quite so nice, and it has got the masking for the windows, which I'll put on in a sec, but there's no stickers for the outside. So there's a couple options there as well. You can buy sticker templates like this, or whatever you want from your hobby store or online, and put those on after you're finished to give you the finish you want. Or you can actually have masks that you lay up inside here and paint around it. So if you want some flames or something like that, you could put them, you could mask that out. There's another style of cover as well. Some of these covers, the ones that aren't completely pre-painted, come semi-painted, and that means in this case here, all the black lines there I didn't paint. Oh, actually I think that's a pre-painted lid, completely pre-painted. Yep. All the black lines were already on, and the only thing I've actually painted there is the red, which is the background to it. And I could have painted any colour there at all, but I put red on. And the other thing that you will need to finish it off is probably a coat of white paint. So you would go with the coat of paint that you're actually using, and I put another layer of white across the bottom so that this is actually used, so it doesn't look that clean, but that actually seals the colour in and actually makes the colour that you've used pop out a little bit more. So I'm going to have a quick go at showing you how to actually spray. There's probably going to be people around that are much better at this than I am, but this is really just a basic look at it. The spray gun works, and over here I've got a bit of a test area. You press the air down and then pull back to get the paint to come out. So you can actually see the paint coming out there. Now I've actually got a fairly small nozzle on this because I don't want too much paint to come out. So you can actually see in there the paint going on. Now I just want a thin layer of paint in there. I don't want a big thick load of paint where it's all going to run. There. Eventually we'll want, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 layers of paint. One of the good ways to work out whether or not you've got enough paint there is to hold it up to the light. And when you hold it up to the light, you'll see where all the holidays are in the paintwork, where it needs more paint, that sort of stuff. And that's fairly important. So once you've done that layer of paint, just use your hot air gun and just a long way away from the car body, right? You don't want to melt this thing. And I'll put my hand behind it so I know how hot the car body's getting. And I'm just going to brush it sort of back and forth like that. And you can see the paint changing colour. I don't want to melt the paint, I don't want to melt the car body, but I do want to just warm it up a little bit. And it's probably a bit hard to see here, but you can see it change colour as it dries off. And that's the way that you'll know that you can put another coat of paint on. So once it's dried off, I can go in again and just give it another light coat of paint. Always start your air or your paint away from the body that you're using, because you don't want the first little bits that come out quite often are a little bit splotchy, and you don't want those on your work. Best to start your gun or your spray bottle away from what you're doing. Now very quickly I'm just going to show you the same sort of thing with a can of paint. Now obviously with the can you're going to have to give it a shake beforehand. So similar sort of thing, we're just going to test it beforehand. That's working beautifully. Now a lot of fumes come off this because it's not an air gun. The actual fumes of this, you probably need to be in an open-ish sort of area. You don't want a lot of wind going around in here. But you can see a lot more paint is coming out of this than out of the air gun, and that's partly because I've used a small nozzle on it as well. Now the thing about this body is it hasn't been fully cut out as well. You'll see there's an edge on this. Once I've finished, I'm going to have to cut out all the wheel arches, etc. But you can see here roughly how that's looking so far, and this is its absolute first coat. So it's a fairly thin coat of paint. You can still see straight through that. So you really want a nice thick coat. I'm going to dry that off a little bit. And then I'm going to put on a second layer of paint. And so on. Now I've painted both these bodies. This one, as you can see, I've actually gone for black in the front and red in the back, and I'm going to use those decals to actually go between the two colours, so hopefully that'll work. I think it's important that you try different things. This other body here is now completely blue. Now that's the one I did with the airbrush. Bit of a different kind of paint, and the next step here is to put the white on, but I want these to be completely dry. I don't want the colours to blend through. When I spray the white on, I don't want to blend it in with the colour that's underneath. So I'm going to leave these overnight before I do that. The other thing is, if you're going to use your cans of spray again, hold them upside down and spray them onto something like this card here, and just blow this paint out of the tube that's in there and out of the nozzle, so that when you go to use it again it's not blocked up. So I'm going to clean up my stuff now, leave it sit till tomorrow, and then I'm going to put the white on, I'm going to strip the top off, put the decals on and cut it out. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. This is dry. And it looks like my blue one's dry as well. I'm just going to give that a bit of a warm up because it's pretty cold here today. Now I'm going to apply a layer of white paint. I'm actually going to put a layer of white paint into this body now. And the same for the small blue one. You can see how that white layer has just blocked that colour a lot. That colour is actually now quite solid, whereas before the model was looking a little bit transparent. Now that white layer, and it's only been 2 layers, I put 5 or more coats of the colour through it, and it took quite a while as well. That was the other thing I had said before, but it took me an hour to do those 2 colours. I went through 3 cans of paint, and it actually took an hour to do all that. With the white, you don't have to be quite so careful and don't have to put so many layers in, but it's very important with your colour coat that you get a very thick coat of colour through there, and it's nice and even, there are no runs, because all that will show up. The white paint, not so much, it's just to block the colour in. Okay, so that's that stage done. You see white on this side, colour on top. Same with this one, a big thick coat of white underneath, and the top is blue. I'm going to leave those to dry for a few hours now, even though I've stuck my fingernail in one of it. Leave that to dry and come back to the final part. Okay, so paint's dry. I'm going to take the outer layer of plastic off and see how this came out, and maybe put the stickers on. So as you can see, we've gone from that dull finish to a beautiful, bright, shiny paint job. I've taken the blanks out of the windows so you can see straight through. I've also got some other, we could actually put these white ones in there so we have white windscreen, or just leave it like that. But that's come up a treat. And that's white underneath, blue on the top. We'll just go ahead and put the stickers on now. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's one down, one to go. With my newly painted bodies, I always keep them back in a plastic bag so they don't get dirt and dust on them. All in all, that one's come up pretty well as well. There it is. White underneath. I've still got to cut the excess off. I've got to cut the wheel arches out, but I'll put the stickers on first, then I'll do the cutting out. I'll also have to drill the holes for the body supports. Arguably I should have done that maybe first, but that's okay, still can be done later. So here it is, more or less finished. I still haven't cut the wheel arches out, but got a few stickers on the outside, and I think it's come up okay. See you next time on Stupid Fast RC.